Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trace Trelko, joined by Adam Eaton. Welcome in to Sons of UCF Live. Adam, when a win happens, everything just feels better when you open a show.
Yeah, I just started to be able to breathe on Tuesday. So that's a positive as well. But what a game, Trace. What a weekend for the Knights. I'm sure we'll talk all about it. We've got a great show for you all tonight. What's in the box? Questions. We got Brandon Marcello coming up in a little bit. We've got Jeff Allen's Big 12-minute Trace. And, of course, our favorite, Coach Lounsberry off the top. But what a fantastic weekend for the Knights. What a great win. You were there. You got to witness it, Trace. Was it one of the, as you think about all the games you've been to, where is this kind of stacked for you? Games you've been at, not games you've watched, games you've been at in terms of excitement level, your blood pressure going up and down. Where is this kind of rank for you?
Well, it was right up towards the top. With 5 minutes left to go in the game, you can go down on field level. And you know that a lot of excitement happened in that last 5 minutes. I was in the end zone with Christy Malzahn, and we're looking at each other, and there's a nervousness as the Knights are driving down the field, and then there was a lot of excitement with the touchdown, and then we both looked at each other and said, "There's too much time on the clock." So you knew that the defense had to step up, and the Knights close out just an epic comeback and go into that bye week 3-0. What a different show this would have been had we been talking about the Knights coming up short or it never getting close. It was 28-7 at one point, of course. So it feels good. Everything has been lighter this week. There was no media availability with the coordinators on Sunday night or Coach Malzahn on Monday. So everything kind of relaxed. They're out recruiting and doing other things. But it was a nice, I kind of like, play a couple of games, take a break. I'd take another bye week after week 6 too, but let's enjoy this time because Knights are 3-0. And I know there were some doubters out there that thought maybe they wouldn't get that first win on the road. I had concerns about it for months. I knew it would be an important game, and they stepped up to the occasion.
Yeah, it didn't look good after the first half, Trace, but here's a couple of key things I took away from that game. Number one, this was a game of stars, right, Trace? You and I were in Las Vegas, and UCF brought 5 players with them, right? KJ Jefferson, RJ Harvey, Kobe Hudson, Deshaun Pace, and Lee Hunter, right? And when we needed big plays the most, those were the same guys that stepped up and made the plays. We're going to talk about KJ. We're going to talk about RJ. Without Deshaun Pace and some of the tackles he made defensively and some of the stops he got those nights, I don't know that we are where we are. So that's my first takeaway, is the guys that we have been counting on to come through for UCF actually were the guys that came through for UCF. That bodes well for the rest of the season. Number two, Gus has said this, and my favorite Gusism is the number of new players has increased every press conference.
Every 40, time he talks, the number it's up to 50 now.
45. Now it's 50. So whatever, 50 new players. But this is a moment, Trace, where this is the first time they've been in the fire like this, right? And now you walk away from this game and you say, hey, when I need something, I can count on my wide receiver. I can count on my own line. I can count on my defense. This feels like a trust building type of game, Trace, where you don't know who you have because everybody's new, and you get thrown into the fire. You get thrown into a really big situation, and all of a sudden you start to figure out who you can trust, who you can lean on. And good news for the Knights, it's the same guys that we need to be able to trust and lean on. KJ, RJ, offensive line, defense, so on and so forth. And my third takeaway was last year, we were the team that got beat down in the fourth quarter. We were the team that was tired, that couldn't get off the field, couldn't get stops. Sonny Dykes told our own Robert in the press conference, they wore us down in that fourth quarter. The running attack between RJ Harvey, Penny Boone a little bit, Miles Montgomery, who got banged up, Johnny Richardson, and KJ Jefferson, we wore them down. What a change of pace from last year, where we were the team in the fourth quarter who couldn't hang with Baylor, couldn't keep with Texas Tech, couldn't keep with West Virginia, and now we're the team that's imposing our will, speaks to the changes in the strength and conditioning staff. So I think a lot of key things. The win was one thing, but I think you take away some of the nuggets that were there, and it really gives you some confidence that this could be a great team throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm not sure, right, that they win this game with last year's team. And we saw losses on the road. And so that is a big difference. Coach Malzahn, other coaches have said, going to learn a lot about this team when it faces adversity. I would say it faced a great deal of adversity. The special teams letdowns, not being able to get off the field on third down in that first half, a lot of chunk yardage by TCU quarterback Josh Hoover, and they didn't cave, right? Down 28-7. There was a moment, though, I don't know if you remember, it was a false start on UCF. And RJ Harvey got mad. He was hopping up and down. I don't know how. I haven't gotten through the whole game just because of everything this week. So I don't know how it looked on TV, but I saw it. And Robert and I up in the press box said, boy, he is fired up. And it felt like a change. Like he was just, we're not going to take this, And I love that fiery emotion. And I like the point you made about the guys brought to Vegas all stepping up and playing a factor in this game. We were in the post game with head coach Gus Malzahn, and he talked about this big comeback and how it ranks in his time at UCF.
Kind of reminds me a little bit when we played Boise that first year. We were down by 21. Same thing. The difference is we were on the road, and this was a very talented team. Their quarterback is the real deal. Their defense coordinator, they do a good job. And early on, like I said, we were trying some different things, and then finally we settled in and simplified things, and we were able to start having success offensively.
Yeah, a great deal of success in the second half for the defense as well. So a lot of positives. I mean, we're going to talk with Coach Lounsberry in a few moments. There are a lot of things, though, that need to be corrected. Get the bye week this week. A lot of healing. When KJ Jefferson sat down for the post game, he grimaced. He winced. He got banged up a lot during that game. And Coach Malzahn talked about it, that he played hurt through a good portion of that game. And that is why you bring in KJ Jefferson, right? To win a game like that. Again, it wasn't beating New Hampshire or Sam Houston. It was winning a tough conference road game. And he helped lead them to victory.
Yeah, I mean, to your point about RJ Harvey and the penalty, when your best players are also your leaders, that's a recipe for success, right? That's a recipe to have a team that can be self-accountable and can take this hopefully to the next level. I think what's interesting though, Trace, is I said this on the podcast this week. The plane took off and went from Fort Worth back to Orlando. Hopefully, what was on that plane with UCF was a little bit of confidence, a little bit of understanding, a little bit of swagger, and a little bit of just realizing what they are as a team. And then when the chips fold, that they have the opportunity to kind of be there, right? So hopefully that chip on their shoulder, that confidence, also traveled back to Orlando. But you're right, having KJ Jefferson, we had look. I'll be the first to admit, we were all a little bit like. I don't really know, but I'll say this: when the lights were bright in the fourth quarter, they weren't too bright for KJ. And I'll give credit to Eric Lopez, who said this on Around the Kingdom. He's played in front of crowds that are double the size of TCU. He's been in environments that are way more hostile than what he saw in TCU. And the moment wasn't too big for veteran guys like him, like RJ, like Deshaun Pace. And I think that'll be the thing I'll always remember about this game, Trace, is not the comeback, but the guys who willed that comeback to happen. I was in a group chat, and when we were driving, it was 31-13. I don't know why that. I'm usually pretty pessimistic when I'm watching the game, right? And
you're a true UCF fan.
I'm a true UCF guy. And when I texted to my friends, I said, "Don't let us score here." I just had a feeling at that point the momentum was coming in our direction. And look, to your point, it wasn't easy. With every great win comes a little bit of luck, and we had some of that as well along our way. I think TCU helped us out a little bit with some of the ways they played the game, but I'm not going to worry about that. All I'm going to do is look at that win column and see 3 for UCF and 0 on the loss side, and I'm going to take that as a win.
Yeah, not a lot of news made this week until UCF dropped its Space Game uniforms out of the blue, right, during a bye week. I polled on that, asking fans what they thought. 83% like them. What about you? Where are you at on these Space Game uniforms?
Listen, my first initial thought, Trace, was like, haven't we seen these before? Like the sleeves, I think, are relatively similar. The upper part of the jersey is similar. It's not till you get to the torso and below, which clip that if you want to, where you have.
Now, would you clip that and throw that into the mailbag open?
Torso and below. I'll say it again, where you've got a little bit of the speckling, a little bit of the gradient colors that make it a little bit different. But here's the thing: like at some point in time, you're gonna run out of ideas, and I know you, amongst many, are of the opinion that there should be no orange involved. There should be very little Carolina blue involved. So if you're going to take those out of the mix, you don't have a lot of options left. So I thought they were a tad repetitive, but I got to admit, when you see them kind of in the full garb, it looks pretty cool. And I'm always a sucker for a good alternate jersey.
Can we get black and gold against Colorado? Is that too much to ask? We're in the 6-day hold on that game. Don't know the time. I know that frustrates you traveling from a distance. You don't know what you're doing yet. But can we get black and gold for that game? That's all I'm asking.
I mean, I don't have a lot of control over that. I'll make some calls if you want me to.
Yeah. I want to talk more about uniforms and this past week's game with former UCF assistant coach Paul Lounsberry. Coach Lounsberry back in Sons of UCF Live. Hello, Coach.
Hi, Trace. How you doing, Adam?
Good, Coach.
Doing well. All right. During your time coaching, were you ever excited about a uniform? Was there a uniform that pops in your mind? Like these space game uniforms?
We were just glad we had uniforms.
I just set that up on a tee for you, going back to a different era.
It was a different time. Financially, it was much different. And, I don't really care about – I did like our uniforms that we wore back in those days. And I still like that uniform, the block UCF and the black and old gold. And I think it's good. But I really don't care that much about what uniform we wear. I just like to see the players.
And the wins. As a comeback goes, what'd you think of Saturday's win over TCU? That was a pretty impressive second half by the Knights on both sides of the ball.
It was very impressive, but even the first half, there was a lot that impressed me. We stuffed the run for TCU, and we ran the ball in the first half effectively. Now, we made some bonehead mistakes, and we couldn't get off the field on third down. And you got to give that quarterback, he was very accurate. He gets a lot of credit. They had four good receivers. And they utilized them, and they did a good job. But when I talked with the players this week at practice, none of them felt like there was any doubt that they weren't going to win the game. They felt like throughout the game that they were going to win the game. At halftime, they went in just businesslike and said, hey, we're going to win this. We got plenty of time on the clock. We're going to come back and win. And they did. And but anytime you can run the football and stop the run, you got a chance. And one of the key things in the game was when we were down 31-20 and we ran the ball 15 straight times for an 80-yard drive and a touchdown. It set the tone, and I think to that point, TCU thought they were going to stop us and win. They didn't give up or anything, but it was a statement by our football team, and the players, I think, responded to that very well, and the defense responded to it too. And then the other play, the call that I thought was hugely important was with 3 minutes to go, we punted the ball, and that showed a lot of confidence in our defense and how they were playing, and it really did flip the field for us and give us a chance to go down and score. And we scored a little bit too quick, but it was still, I thought it was great. Those two times in the game I thought were really good, but throughout the game we controlled the line of scrimmage, and that when you do that, you got a really, really good chance of winning despite having 3 kicks blocked.
You said that 15 straight runs. How demoralizing is that for TCU's defense, right? Each play, you think we're going to stop them here. We're going to wrap them up. We're going to, keep them down. And yet you keep getting pounded. It's just got to wear on your psyche over a course of a drive like that.
Physically and mentally, it's tough. And that's why people, when you can do that, you do that, So it was great. I loved it. I don't care whether we throw or run to score, but running the ball like that was a statement, and being second in the country in rushing yardage, even though it was only 3 games out, it's still an important thing to achieve. I mean, there's 130 other teams that aren't there.
Coach, it wouldn't be UCF if I didn't go negative town. You and I talked after the game, and one of the things obviously was the block kicks. There was 3 of them. You explained to me after the game kind of what caused that and how UCF fixed that. Can you share with us what happened on those block kicks and what the address or the fix is for that?
When you have a short, the first kick, I think Boomer just kicked it low. The second one, when you're inside, when you're short down there close to the goalpost, and you're on a hash mark, you want to actually put tackle over and give you a chance to snap the ball a little bit more towards the center of the field and get a better angle for the kicker. And we have done that all the time, and for some reason that didn't happen in the game. There's a lot of chaos out there on the field, and somehow that call wasn't understood or didn't get made, and so the TCU player had a clean shot from the outside and a short angle to get it, and so he got it. But that was addressed immediately on the sideline, and then the extra point was just a matter of a little bit of an alignment error, and one of our ends missed a punch, and that'll happen from time to time. But it was addressed immediately, and it is fixed. They've been working on it all week, so I have no doubts.
They were.
When we got to the extra point that mattered, now they had it fixed by then, and really did a great job. So I'm fine. Those kinds of mistakes happen from time to time. They usually don't happen in bunches like that, but it did in that game. But like you said earlier, Trace, we overcame adversity in several different ways, and that is a confidence building thing. And it's also, I think you have to also go to the conditioning part of things. Coach Kinsey and his weight room staff have been with these players all in the off season and all summer, and those players paid the price, and they reaped the benefits of it on Saturday. So kudos go out to the strength staff. They did a fantastic job, and all the coaches appreciated that too.
All right, Coach, allow me to stay at negative town for just a second. I think the other thing folks were concerned about was in the first half, TCU seemed to be able to throw the ball all over the yard without much, force from UCF. What did you see defensively? Looked like some pretty soft coverage. What did you see defensively in terms of the way UCF was defending TCU on that pass in the first half?
They caught us a couple of times in man coverage, and ran pick routes that worked for them. The quarterback was extremely accurate. The 2 touchdowns that number 3, their receiver, made were, those are ESPN top 10 catches. Both of those 2 touchdowns were fantastic catches. Second half, we made some adjustments. We played a little bit more zone on third down, and we started getting them off the field. And I think kudos should go to our coaches for that too. They went in halftime and broke it down and figured it out, but sometimes, the other team's going to have a hot hand, and they did. And you just have to keep playing and keep going and eventually win.
1 sack through the first 3 games. I asked Coach Malzahn about the pass rush, and he said, we got to figure that out. What did you see?
I saw we got pressure on them at the end of the game, even though we didn't sack them. There was pressure in the guy's face, and I think that helped us with some of the errant throws that he threw. It's more about how much pressure you get on the quarterback, not how many sacks you have. Everybody likes that stat, and certainly defensive coordinators and defensive line coaches love it when they got lots of sacks because they can point out, we're sacking them, but we stopped the run. And sometimes you give up a bit of pass rush glory to make sure you're stopping the run. And I think you're going to see from Colorado this week, you're going to see them trying to sack the passer and open up some run lanes, I think. So that's one of the things I think that you have to consider, that sometimes we may not sack him, but we stopped the run and we got pressure on him, and that's really more important than the number of sacks.
So UCF didn't turn over the ball. There were some penalties. It was the special teams plays, but also some clock management issues. So what did you see there at the end of the first half? Coach Malzahn was not happy on the field. He was not happy about the way the half ended in the postgame either.
I think it was more inconsistent officiating and timing of the officials than it was clock management on our part. There's a variable there that you just can't account for because it changes a lot. And TCU, to their credit, really stretched the envelope on lollygagging out there. And I think something has to be done to address that with the officials because it's very inconsistent.
Coach, what did you learn about this UCF team on Saturday night?
They're tough mentally and physically, and they're the kind of guys you want to be in the trenches with. So I knew that already, or I suspected that already, but they proved it in that game against a very physical team and a very good football team. And I think you'll see TCU win with their share of games. So I hope I'm not looking at through rose-colored glasses. I don't think I am, but I know our team is physical and mentally and physically tough. And I want to say one other thing too. In this day and age of the portal and the NIL, one of the most important things that the coaches have to do is get the chemistry on the team correct. like you said, I don't know if there's 40 or 50 new players, but there's a lot of new players. And a lot of teams are facing this same problem. And to get all those guys that are new and to mesh together, the strength and conditioning in the offseason is huge on that aspect of things, but also the daily emphasis that the coaching staff puts on the team to play together and to go in the same direction and to trust each other. And you when you interviewed our players, every one of them to a T said we had no doubts, we trusted our brothers. And that is a credit to the coaching staff for getting the players going in the right direction mentally, and strength staff and coaching staff. And that's a very difficult thing to get done. And there's a lot of teams that are maybe more talented that aren't getting that done right now. And so I thank the good Lord that we have a coaching staff that understands that and knows how to get that done.
Coach, I'm going to see one of my questions to our good friend Dolly in the chat, who asks, how does a coach attack a bye week before a marquee game like Colorado?
You go recruiting for one thing. You got to always do that. I think you build on what you did well. You make the corrections, and you give the players a little bit of a break, and you just come back with confidence and keep the routine fairly the same during game week. You've got 3 or 4 extra practices that you've gotten in the bye week, and that's good. But you try not to screw it up too much or wear them out too much. I mean, you can do that too. You can do too much sometimes, but our coaching staff is pretty bright about that. They do a good job of tempering, getting the extra work in without killing them. So I think the hardest thing for the coaches is, they had to leave today after practice and go out recruiting, and they're driving everywhere. I mean, we don't have an athletic department airplane to fly them everywhere to go recruiting like a lot of SEC and Big Ten schools have. So they're driving, and it's tough because they got to be back Saturday to finish the game plan and break down the latest film for Colorado. It's tough on them physically and emotionally too. So the players get the break, the coaches don't get the break.
Well, I know somebody at UCF has an airplane coach. I've seen some tweets, but one last one for you. I know. So for me, my liver hasn't recovered yet from Saturday. I know Trace.
Well, that could be all the liquor.
Well, I can't confirm or deny that. I know Trace was nervous in the press box. How do you watch a game like that, Coach? Are you nervous? Are you confident? Are you a pacer? Take us into the Coach Lounsberry manner here as you're watching that TCU game.
I'm pretty calm. If I see us stopping the run and running the ball and controlling the line of scrimmage, which is what I look for at the beginning of the game and throughout the game. But if I see that, I feel like we got a chance. And then I get frustrated too when we make mistakes. And I probably, they might have heard me a couple of times out in Fort Worth from my living room. But when we scored that touchdown and made that extra point, I was like everybody else. I was standing up and cheering and clapping and just thanking the good Lord that we had a chance to get ahead. And then that last 36 seconds just took too long. It was a long time.
Dolly's question about the bye week, and I was thinking, what's the best time to have a bye week? And then I saw KJ Jefferson sit down for the post game, and he grimaced, he winced a little bit, and I thought, yeah, this for him is a good time for a bye week. And I thought, when Coach Malzahn talked about, hey guys, he was hurt. He was injured. Yeah, he wasn't 100% out there. That for a guy that is new to the team, right, as a team captain, that galvanizes a team too when they see a guy throwing himself out there for the team.
Yeah, but like you guys mentioned earlier, the guys that were out in Vegas at the press conference, they are the leaders of the team, and they were the guys that came through, and KJ's one of them. And it just, there's a lot of confidence that our team has in those guys. And you watched Deshaun Pace at the end of the game. He made a bunch of plays there in the second half that were really outstanding. So, and of course, Hudson was fantastic with his catches, and Pittman was great with his catches. So it was a total team effort, but those guys did step up, and that's a big thing, a confidence builder, and it's huge because the team pulls together with those guys. This team is very much together at this point, and I think they're going to stay together. I think they've been together the whole time, mentally, and as the chemistry is good, is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
All right, 3 games up, 3 wins. Overall grade from you on what you've seen through 3 games.
If we win, it's always an A+. So I really like what I've seen. It's good to overcome adversity. We've had a few penalties that you'd like to eliminate, but we haven't had it hasn't been debilitating, the penalties. The 3 block kicks in one game is strange. You don't normally win a game when that happens, but one was a bad kick, one was a administrative effort, and the other one was just a missed physical miss, so I don't think those are too serious and it's been addressed. So I don't think I don't see a glaring repeating error there. And I don't see a repeating error with penalties either. We have a very disciplined team. So I like what I've seen from every aspect of it. And number one is that we stop the running and that we're able to run. Those 2 things are huge. And we haven't turned the ball over.
Well, enjoy the week ahead for practice. We look forward to talking to you next week, get a little bit more into Colorado maybe, and what the Knights are going to have to do to get out of that one with a win. Coach Lounsberry, we appreciate you being with us on Sons of UCF Live.
Thank you. It's always good to be with you guys. And I appreciate what you do.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach. All right, Adam, how you feeling? Where's your grade? Coach Generous with the A. Hey, they are 3-0. They dominated the 2 opponents they were supposed to. They got the win on the road. There are things that they need to correct, but they haven't been turning the ball over. There's a lot of positives, right?
Yeah, if you're asking for the first 3 games, I say it's a solid A-, B+. I think we're in that range, right? I think
B+. I feel B+. I don't know. Maybe that's wrong at 3-0.
Well, I kind of want to give a grading on a curve because we went to TCU and won a tough game, right? We didn't know if we could do that. You and I talked all offseason about this game was the most important. You go when you win at TCU, you set the tone for the rest of the season. UCF in the Big 12 with Gus Malzahn has not been really great on the road. I don't know if you count Cincy as a road win, right? And a lot of people didn't because of their AAC tie-in, right? So you go in right off the bat, tough game. You get knocked down early. You come back for a win. So I give them a couple extra credit points. I think they turned in an extra credit assignment there. So I'm willing to give them an A-. I kind of throw out the Sam Houston rather, and New Hampshire games. I give them an A- based on what I saw. But there's some stuff to fix. They still have to get some stuff. And I think that's the one thing we as fans and as coaches, let's not get complacent here. We didn't win the national championship on Saturday. There's still a lot of things that have to go our way, and there's still a lot of work that has to be put into it.
I feel like B+, but you've talked me into A-. I will tell you, at 21st in Pick'em, I'm giving myself an A. I'm giving a solid F to Mike at 73. Wow. And now time for Jeff Allen and the Big 12 Minute.
Wow, I didn't see Mike getting slaughtered like that. Sorry, Mike.
It was a 9-2 out of conference record for the Big 12 last week. Week 2 also saw a conference matchup that didn't count as a conference game, as Kansas State thumped Arizona, and of course UCF topping TCU in the only conference game. Week 3 features 8 games, 6 of them conference tilts, and all games are on Saturday this week. It kicks off with Houston at Cincinnati at 12 noon on FS1. Also at noon, Kansas visits West Virginia on ESPN2. Out of conference, number 20 Iowa State welcomes Arkansas State at 2 o'clock on ESPN+. Arizona State battles Texas Tech, 3:30 on FS1. In a ranked matchup, number 12 Utah battles number 14 Oklahoma State at 4 o'clock on Fox. In the annual battle for the Iron Skillet, TCU is at SMU at 5 o'clock on the CW in the other out-of-conference matchup. Baylor squares off against Colorado, 8 o'clock on Fox, and number 13 Kansas State is at BYU at 10:30 on ESPN. The byes this week fall to Arizona and our UCF Knights as they get a breather before facing Colorado next week, giving a little rest to R.J. Harvey, who epitomized the definition of putting the team on his back, rushing for 180 yards on 29 carries with 2 TDs and catching a 29-yard touchdown pass for good measure in the victory over TCU to be named Big 12 Offensive Player of the Week. The Defensive Player of the Week was Colorado's two-way star Travis Hunter with 5 tackles and a pick in their win over Colorado State. And Kansas State's Dylan Edwards was the Special Teams Player of the Week by way of a 71-yard punt return against Arizona. With your Big 12 Minutes, I'm Jeff Allen.
Dulcet tones of one.
Did you make it up to section 411, Trace? Or?
I did not. No, I'm sorry, Jeff. I did not. I'm down on the field pregame.
Wow.
chaos.
Yeah.
Apologies, Jeff. I
Big
did
time, man.
not have time to wander around. But Robert, 2 letters, 2 words, wandered around. An article right now on sonsofucf.com on his
Did he wander to
experience.
section 411?
I don't think that's a good question.
What
That's
a
a good
fail.
question. That's
What a
an
fail this has
emotion.
been.
But big thanks to Robert. We've had the team coverage with post game with UCF, and Robert was in there with TCU, and I think that really added to our coverage and our experience from Fort Worth. Dolly also with a good column out this week on sonsofucf.com. So we've been rocking so far this season.
Yeah, no, big thanks to Robert for heading out that way too. And I think we're one of the only outlets to have multiple people on site doing multiple things at the same time. Robert's got a video that if I ever get off my lazy ass, I will one day make into an actual video. Been traveling this week, so you have to give me a little bit of grace here. But we have some behind the scenes stuff from the tailgating scene, which if I read the article correctly, Trace, disappointing. Seemed like TCU wasn't really prepared.
Late starting. They
Yeah?
don't party all day in Fort Worth or party the night before. So a little unusual. Let's talk a little bit more Big 12 at this point in the season with Brandon Marcello. He is the national college football reporter for CBS Sports, and he's good enough to join us here on Sons of UCF Live. Brandon, welcome in.
How are you? How are you guys?
Doing well. I've been thinking as I learned that you would be with us this week, how do you watch games on a Saturday? What's your Saturday look like?
If I'm here at home, not on the road traveling, like usually I'm either like on the back porch watching games and on the phone and texting people across the industry, or I'm upstairs. I'm looking right now, I've got a massive curved monitor. I've counted that with my TV in here in my office and this monitor, I can watch up to 9 games simultaneously.
And understand everything that's going on and make good notes.
Yeah, right. But, it's good to have just because, Twitter's the perfect spot for college football Saturdays because the reporters you follow are usually like 30 seconds ahead of something. So if something big happens, I could just turn my head over to the feed or whatever. And by the time I see the tweet, that play's about to happen or whatever. So it's pretty good setup.
Couple weeks in, what do you make of the Big 12 so far? Anybody's league to win? Maybe even UCF after their come from behind win at TCU.
Yeah, that game at TCU was wild. I'd say it's pretty wide open among like 4 teams probably right now. If I had to guess, we're going to learn a lot obviously this weekend with Utah and Oklahoma State going at it. Kansas State to me maybe looks like the favorite. After their performance last week against Arizona, it seems like Avery Johnson is just really coming along very well in that offense. They've got 2 really dynamic running backs. Their defense was pretty good against Arizona, all things considered, with their passing offense. But, the veteran teams in the Big 12 are kind of the ones everybody kind of saw as the favorites. And we're seeing the 2 most veteran teams go against each other this weekend in Stillwater. And but it is still crazy to me that, with Cam Rising with his hand issue, we're still not clear if he's actually going to play at Oklahoma State. And if he doesn't play, that changes everything I'm expecting out of that game. I think Oklahoma State wins, but if Utah ends up putting Cam Rising out there, I think it's going to be a tight game that Utah may end up coming out on top. But if Rising plays, I don't think I don't think Utah has a really good shot at beating them. Their offense is very stagnant without him.
Brandon, for the first couple of weeks of the season, it seems like the knock on the Big 12 is a lot of really good teams, maybe no great teams. With the loss of Texas and Oklahoma, does the Big 12 have an identity crisis? Does they have a crisis of sort of who that leading team is, or who kind of the bell cow of the conference is?
Maybe so. And then that's just something that's got to work itself out, not this season, but probably the next 2 or 3 years. And that's kind of what happens whenever any conference loses their, as you say, like bell cows. Everybody's going to be fighting for that top spot. But having said that, I mean, before the last couple of years, it wasn't Texas really doing anything. And OU was off and on. And it was TCU. It was Oklahoma State. It was Kansas State. Heck, even Baylor. And so I think if you follow the Big 12 closely enough, that the conference is still very strong. Still got some very good teams. I'm just not sure if we have a team in the Big 12 as they're playing right now that is like a deep, dark threat, like in a playoff field that can make a big run. There's some inconsistencies there. We talked about Oklahoma State earlier. I'm like deathly afraid of picking them in a big game right now after I saw what they did against Arkansas, because of they looked lost for a half of football there. And also Ollie Gordon, he, as of going into last week, was averaging like 3 yards a carry, if that. Some interesting things there to keep an eye on, especially behind an Oklahoma State offensive line that is the oldest in college football. When you combine their ages, they're averaging like 26 of age or something crazy like that. So there's some opportunities here. And I think you got to start like looking at schedules among all these teams, the threats out there, UCF included in that, to kind of see how things stack up there and who might end up being, quote unquote, the freshest team and who's got the most advantageous schedules when we get down in November.
Brandon, 2 years in of UCF being in the Big 12, how do you think they fit into this conference? Obviously, it changed from year 1 to year 2 with the addition of the 4 corner schools. But how do you think UCF has fit into this Big 12?
Yeah, if you look at it, how many teams did we have in new conferences last year? There was a lot, like maybe like 7, something like that. I can't remember. I wrote a story about it back in summer, so I should remember it. But out of all the new schools in the new conferences, UCF had the best record out of any of them. So UCF, despite end up finishing with a quote unquote losing season, had the best year out of all the new teams in their new conferences. It's very tough to move into a new conference, no matter the level, but especially when you are bumping up to a power conference, right? But UCF has been preparing itself for that. Obviously, with the recruiting's been substantially better. You've seen the best recruiting classes in school history there. But that's got to continue to get on the uptick. You got to have like top 20 type classes to win the Big 12 year after year after year and contend. And I think Gus Malzahn's done a very good job of stockpiling talent there. Especially offensively, it's electric. It's incredible, as you guys know, and what they've got there. But they got to play consistent football. They can't be cold for 4 straight possessions or whatever and expect to do what they did against TCU this past week, which is, again, impressive, but you can't play games like that week to week to week and win a championship.
UCF on the bye week, they welcome in Colorado. What do you make of what you've seen so far from Coach Prime and the Buffaloes?
It looks like more of the same from last year to a certain extent. You've got 2 of the better players in all of college football, and Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, and then just a cast of characters around them that have come in from other power programs, some not power programs, and they're still trying to figure each other out, trying to gel and everything. It's a work in progress this season. I do think they're a better team than they were last year. It's just that they can't really run the ball effectively. They finally got something going there on the ground against Colorado State, but Colorado State certainly looks like they may have taken half step back from what they were last year in a Big 12 game, right? We haven't seen that really in quite some time. And that's a huge game down in Orlando, and one that I know Gus Malzahn's had circled on his calendar for quite some time. I remember back in the spring or something like that, he's like, hey, because I've come down there, I've done some behind the scenes pieces. He's like, hey, why don't you come down Colorado week? So he's pretty pumped for that one.
Gainesville. What do you make of the state of play in the state of Florida? Florida State certainly struggling. Little resurgence from Miami. Opportunity here for UCF over these next 2 to make a statement.
Gigantic. That's even compared to a couple of years ago when they won the bowl game, it's a bigger opportunity because they're going in the swamp, and that place is in disarray, as we all know. Billy Napier might not be the coach at that point in the season.
What's the date you have in the pool for Billy Napier? You have October 6th or before, perhaps.
We've done some reporting on this. We got a story coming out tomorrow about kind of what's going on behind the scenes there. So I hate to be like a shill there before we
shill away
watch it, it'll be up Friday morning, mid-morning. But listen, if Billy Napier and Florida lose on the road to Mississippi State this week, I think he's gone by Sunday afternoon. Wow. The next day. I don't see how you keep that going, and especially because Florida will be going into a bye week after the Mississippi State game. So you give yourself an opportunity there to restructure the staff, figure out who the interim coach is going to be, rally the players around, and start formalizing a new plan and working on things in the bye week before you have a huge game against UCF. Also, if you were to lose to Mississippi State and you keep them around, you're just saving yourself up for more embarrassment and the potential for fans to not be riled up and showing up to the game against UCF. And for that matter, I don't think fans, or excuse me, the administration there would probably want Florida fans in their own stadium booing every time they make one small mistake, even if it's not, allowing a touchdown, because that's what's going on in Gainesville right now. They're finding any little thing to boo about. And I think just to keep the fans happy, they're going to have to probably make a move soon. I mean, even an uninspired effort at Mississippi State with a win, I wouldn't discount anything happening there, any decisions being made that lead to Napier's ouster sooner rather than later. But it certainly seems inevitable. I mean, they would have to go on a amazing run, one for the ages, I think, to save Billy Napier.
You've been covering Gus for a long time, Brandon. Obviously, you saw him in his Auburn days. How was and you 2 point you were embedded with UCF for a story that you did a while back. How is the Gus we see now at UCF different than the Gus you saw at Auburn?
Much more tightly wound at Auburn. I mean, this is a guy that every corner he turned around, he had to look out. At Auburn with boosters and all that, but also just the fans. And it was a job. I mean, fans expect a lot of UCF too, but like that's a place where you've got Nick Saban in your own backyard and you have to worry about what he's doing every day. And also you're trying to compete against him and supplant him every single day in the operations you do. So it's very, very difficult. I mean, even small things I would notice, like, Gus, I don't know what he does now. I'm sure he's probably gone back to, he's just more free now, but he'd always wore a visor, right? Well, I remember he started just wearing a hat, and I was all like, what the hell's that all about? Why did you get rid of your trademarked visor? And he said, well, one of my daughters said that they could see my bald spot here. And so I started wearing a hat. I'm all like, what do you care? Who cares, man? Why are you caring about that? And then he goes to UCF. Stops dyeing his hair. He's got the gray hair, flowing and everything. He seems loose. I mean, he's inviting people like me to come down and be embedded with the program. Just like, hey, have at it, man. Go at it. Go to every single meeting you want to. Report on it. I don't care. Gus is a much more confident coach, I think, today than what he was at times at Auburn. I will say this, at Auburn, there were some years, especially the years he knew that they were really good, he was really confident. He'd go in and be telling people, man, we're going to win this many games. We're going to do this and that. And at UCF, I think that he's kind of in a lot of ways found that swagger, but he's older now. So he's a grandpa now. So he's almost just got like this, like freewheeling, like post-retirement grandpa vibe going on with him. Like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. This stuff's fun. Let's have fun out there. Let's not worry about everything and what's coming around the corner every single week. And I like that type of Gus Malzahn. That's the type of Gus Malzahn that I knew when he was coming up through the high school ranks as a head coach. And at UCF, I think in a lot of ways it's revitalized him because, man, that Auburn job really, I think, really beat him down those last couple of years.
Well, we wouldn't be fans if there wasn't a conspiracy theory always lurking, Brandon. And it doesn't take much for folks to see what's happening at Arkansas. Sam Pittman has not had a great run of things. We know Arkansas is obviously native to Gus Malzahn. Is UCF Gus's last stop? Do you see any situation where Gus maybe moves on from UCF to something else?
No, I don't think so. Like if the Arkansas job were to open, I don't think Arkansas, there'd be enough support to hire him, because there's enough boosters in Arkansas, especially in pretty much everywhere across the state, that just don't want to hire him because they see him as someone that spurred them before. And also he was there previously when they had Darren McFadden and Felix Jones for 1 year. And there was just all this drama that wasn't Gus's fault. And a lot of Arkansas fans just don't like going back to quote unquote retreads, even though he's not a retread. He's never been your head coach. He's only an OC there for a year. And that was 20 years ago almost now. But listen, Gus was up for that Arkansas job back in, what year was that? 2017, I think. And I was convinced he was leaving Auburn for Arkansas. From talking to people I knew at Arkansas, Auburn was going to the SEC championship game that year. They had beaten both Georgia and Alabama and did so in impressive fashion and went to the SEC championship game. But Auburn was really hobbled. They had their star running back. They tried to play him, but he couldn't really go full speed, and Georgia beat him. And I was convinced that was his last game. I thought he was going to probably take the Arkansas job. And I remember I even followed him with my iPhone, taping him as he was coming off the field like this. I'm taping his final walk as the Auburn coach. But he didn't take it. And didn't necessarily surprise me. I just thought that he would go, you know what? I think I've probably done everything I can at Auburn at this point. He had detractors even still, despite taking them to an SEC championship game for a second time in 4 years or whatever. And, the pull of going back home to your home state, a place that he played. And by the way, he played for Arkansas as a walk-on. And if you guys ever run into him, ask him about the jersey he wore at the Liberty Bowl for them. They misspelled his name on the back at nameplate. It says Malazan. He's still got it. He's still got it in his closet. But I think, time's moved on. I mean, but not to say, like, if Arkansas were to be real serious about trying to come after him, I would think he'd have to think about it. But, he's got a good thing going at UCF. So why go start over again, even if it's back home? I think he feels really good about how he's been building that thing there at UCF. And that's a long-winded way to say, but I like providing like some of these behind-the-scenes background stuff about him. And I don't think he'd leave in the end. I think he very much sees UCF as his last spot.
Yeah, I was going to transition to that. In these parts, you'll hear the name Bobby Bowden, right? And the talk of being with a program and taking it to another level. In your conversations with him, do you get the sense that he sees that? I mean, he's always talking about the future of college football, and he has been trying to build this. The recruiting classes have been strong, portal class this year. And there's that opportunity to really put UCF in that big four in the state of Florida. Yeah,
real quick, the chat room right there, Matt Dolan, perfect way to say that. Scott Frost regrets going home every day. Went to Nebraska and that thing blew up. And Scott Frost is a good coach. Just didn't work out in Nebraska. But yeah, listen, everything that Gus has said publicly, he says privately too. He legit thinks that place is just a gold mine, and it's the future of college football because of the enrollment there, the amount of the alumni base. And as you guys know, the alumni base is one of the youngest in the country, and it's actually just getting younger every year because there's so many kids graduating there from every year. It actually drops the median age down. But 5, 10, 15 years down the line, a lot of those alums are going to be in their 40s, their 50s, and they've hit it big at some point. They got their first kind of big egg, and they're going to be looking to spend it. And I think UCF's got a very great opportunity to capitalize on that. It's not where they want it to be now, but down the road, because of just that huge alumni base, and if you are successful in football and some other programs, they'll tap into that and they'll cash in. I mean, UCF, out of all the programs of the Big 12, when you talk about I say SMU, but SMU's in the ACC, but that
sounds funny, doesn't it?
It does. But when I think of schools that are kind of, on that level, new schools that have gone to power conferences. UCF's the one that's set up the best by far for where they're going to be potentially 5 to 10 years from now, just from their booster support.
How have you enjoyed your time at UCF when you've been to games? You've traveled all over the country. You've seen games in a lot of great venues. How does it feel to be at a UCF game?
The Bounce House is awesome. I was there for, I think, Gus's debut against Boise State on Thursday night.
Thursday night, Friday morning.
Yeah, that was difficult.
I remember seeing you in the press box, and you're like, "Oh my God, is it 2 a.m?
It's 2 a.m. Let's go!" And then
you had a flight. I talked to you. You were going right from UCF to the airport because you had an early morning flight. You thought you'd get some sleep. You were wrong.
I'm going to tell you, I can't tell you how many road trips end up being like that. It's like, you know what? I'm going to book the earliest flight out so I can get home. And it's like, well, game's going overtime or something's happening or there's a press box issue. But Yeah, it's an impressive venue. I would like to be there when it's like a night game against a conference opponent. I haven't seen that yet. And
The press
every time,
box shakes.
yeah,
You'll see your bottle of water. It'll
that's what I hear. So that's why they call it the bounce house. But the only other times I've been around UCF, I've been holed up in the meeting rooms in the dark, embedded with the team. So like you don't get the experience Orlando other than going out for a jog around campus, which is beautiful, by the way. Fantastic campus. And like last year I was with the team. I even got on the team airplane to go to Kansas State. And I'll say that, like, I'm going off the rails here, but like, man, you guys just don't know how much work these kids and the coaches put in every single freaking day. I don't know how they do it and continue to live and breathe. I mean, flew to Kansas State with them, right? And it's great having a direct flight on a team plane and getting the police escort in. So much better than as a media member or a fan when you have to sit in traffic.
Yeah, I went on that trip and landed in Kansas City and drove 110 miles.
We landed in Manhattan, baby, and we thought we were going to have to land, I think, at Topeka, but they ended up saying this runway was open so we could go. So it was great. But, the game ends at Kansas State, and it's like, I don't even know what it was, like 9 or 10 o'clock. Everything in the locker room, get all that together, and everybody's packing everything up. And the equipment crews, I can't believe the job they do. Just like they're flipping a house, in 10 minutes, and get on the bus to go to the airport, straight to the airport to get on the plane. And as soon as I got on the bus, Darren Henshaw is sitting near the front of the bus, and he's already got an iPad out and he's grading film, looking at film. Going through it. And he had that iPad out and taking notes in addition to the other assistant coaches when they got on that bus, all the way from the time we got to the airport, then on the plane, then on the next bus to come back from the airport in Orlando to campus, all the way till 3:40 something in the morning when I got off the bus in Orlando. They were still looking at film and breaking stuff down, and they had to be back in at 7 in the morning to start planning for the next week. The amount of work that goes into that, and also that visit, it opened my eyes so much more to just like how great of a tactician a guy like Gus is. He would sit in meetings and everything, and Darren would do this thing or whatever, and Gus would come sit next to me. And he'd whisper like, "This is going to be one of the big plays. You watch. We're going to hit it. We're going to pick it up. And we're going to hit it for big." There were 3 such plays that he mentioned to me during the week, and I would make notes like, all right, maybe watch this or whatever. And they're spitting out all this verbiage that I don't even understand. They're speaking a language I do not know because they're calling all these calls and sure enough, 3 of them were big plays that broke out. And I'm just like, the knowledge to be able to know ahead of time, we know this is going to work. Like they'd run that's one play, but they'd run it twice because they knew it was going to hit big at some point, and it did. It's incredible being around those type of football minds.
Brandon, what do you make of the rest of UCF schedule? Obviously, a tough game against Colorado, Florida. What's the ceiling for this UCF team in your mind?
Oh, that's a great question. I need to pull up the schedule. Give me 1 second.
We got Colorado, Florida, Iowa State, BYU, Cincinnati, West Virginia, Utah, if my memory has me correct.
Right. Utah's
Arizona,
November,
Arizona
right?
State. Yep.
Yeah. Utah's the closer. That's right. And it's at home. So I look at it now, and I think Colorado game's a win. Give me 4. Florida's a coin toss.
Ooh.
I say that just because Florida might be recharged and ready to go if they have a new interim coach. Or they might be recharged even with the win against Mississippi State and got some confidence going, and they're fighting for Billy Napier or whatever. Who knows? That's a coin flip game. Cincinnati, that should be a win with the way they're playing. Iowa State's a loss. Iowa State's one of the most veteran teams in the country. Really love Matt Campbell. I think this is the year he probably ends up leaving and getting another job. That's just my opinion. BYU should be a win. So what are we up to now? I'm not even counting. Arizona in Orlando, coin flip game. I wonder if that
Space game.
That's maybe like a coin flip game because how are they reacting if they lose another game or two between now and then? Very talented, obviously, a quarterback and receiver. At Arizona State, that game's going to be fun, guys. You got Kenny Dillingham going against his former boss, and Kenny's got things going a little bit with their offensive line and their running game. Ooh, I don't know. I'm going to say that's a loss with the way Arizona State's playing right now and playing in the desert. West Virginia, coin flip. Utah, season kind of hinges on that in a lot of ways in the closer about this being viewed as maybe like a special year. So you're probably looking, what is that, like
You have
9-3?
You had 2 losses and you had 3 coin flips in there.
Oh, 3 coin flips. How dare I? All right, I'll say this. Ceiling's 9-3 or 10-2. That's a ceiling.
A special season means the coin flips go your way, right?
Yeah, certainly. If coin flips go your way, you're probably a 1 or 2 loss team, for that matter. But
it could make that Utah game a lot of fun on that Friday night.
That could be the most meaningful game in UCF history, other than claiming the national championship. Because Big 12 championship game could be on the line, a spot in there. But here's the thing. Like, we went into this season thinking the Big 12 was going to be the home of the biggest, or let's just say the closest games. And I wouldn't say it's kind of lived up to that so far, but at the very least, it's showing that the spread between a lot of teams isn't that far. So you got to really kind of keep your eyes on what's happening week to week and the injuries among all these teams going into it. But UCF offensively is as talented as anybody in the conference. You guys know that. And that puts you in position to win any of these games.
Brandon, what do we have to do to get RJ Harvey in the Heisman conversation? 448 yards through 3 games, 8 touchdowns. If my math is correct, and I was not a math major at UCF, but he's on pace for 1,800 yards, over 30 touchdowns. What do we have to do? And I'm sure he won't get there, by the way. But what do we have to do to get RJ Harvey in that Heisman conversation?
He's got to have a big performance in a big game. That's what's got to happen. It's got to be against like a quote unquote name opponent, because that's what opens everybody's eyes on the national level. I mean, everybody's obsessed with Arch Manning, starting against ULM, you got to be a name, or you got to have a big performance in a big game. So look at some of the games on the schedule and we think of that. At Florida, if RJ Harvey goes in there and puts up 150, 160 yards and a win, that does it for you. That puts your name on the map. And for that matter, to a lesser extent, against Colorado here in a couple of weeks, if he puts big numbers against them, a lot of people are going to be watching that game. Casual fans, just fans of Dion and the Sanders family and Travis Hunter. And if RJ does that, they're like, who's this kid? So these next 2 games, big time opportunities, and they're at great opportunities because you're approaching the midway point of the season when we start kind of figuring out who our top 4 or 5 guys are in the Heisman race.
All right, when you come into UCF for a game, you're going to be in the press box for Colorado? Or are you going to be over in Gainesville? Watch a game?
I don't know. I have nothing on the docket right now. In fact, my boss was asking me that I need to figure out my November travel, but I'm like, man, I'm supposed to go to Oregon, Ohio State in October 12th, and I don't know if that's going to be as big of a game as everybody thinks, because Oregon's struggling a little bit. But hey, keep winning, Utah. That could be it. That could be the game. Very much so.
A little holiday weekend in Orlando for you.
Yeah, it's a Friday game too. Yeah.
Brandon Marcello covers college football for CBS Sports. Good enough to spend a half hour with us on Sons of UCF Live. We'll welcome you back anytime.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you. Adam, we didn't even get into talking NIL and realignment and TV contracts, and you could just go on and on with him. Good insights on Gus, though, right?
Yeah.
I will say that I do find it interesting, the access Gus gives to a Brandon Marcello. And
not time for the bitterness, Trace. Not time.
I did not fly on that team plane to Manhattan.
You did not time for the bitterness. Coming soon, though.
Good conversation.
Yeah, great to have Brandon on the show. Again, to your point, nobody knows Gus as good as Brandon. He's been covering him since the Auburn days. That was really interesting about the Arkansas stuff. I know a lot of folks have talked about that. Interesting perspective on that. So As the late great James Reed would said, I don't care. Let's just win at this point, and we'll worry about all that at the other point in time.
All right, Robert, 2 letters, 2 words, boasts of me that I keep this show tight in an hour. Yeah. We debuted a special overtime edition of Around the Kingdom this week. So time means nothing this week. This is the benefit of going into a bye week 3-0.
What are you gonna do? Bye week. Deal with it.
Be a little loosey-goosey. All right, time for some news and notes and maybe an interesting guy on camera.
Let's go around the kingdom. Isn't that what he said? Did he not say, let's go around the kingdom?
I don't recall it quite sounding like that. It was very, you remember in Vegas, he looked down at me, he goes, I remember you.
I do
you
remember
know?
that.
And so we talked through some issues from a previous press conference, but he smacked me real hard right there, which you didn't see. And I thought, geez, this is a big dude. So,
it was a tough moment, Trace, because he walked over to you and said, I know who you are. And I'm like, okay, if Trace gets jumped here, I'm not helping out. There's nothing I can do.
Nobody's helping me.
You typically want to help a friend if they're in need. And this is the situation I was like, that's a tough one, Trace. Good luck to you.
Volleyball just closed out 3-1 win over Nevada. They are now 6-1. Host Nevada again Friday at 6:00 in the venue. Maryland on Saturday at 6 in the venue. Women's soccer, they are in a scoreless draw so far at Iowa State. There is a weather delay in Ames, Iowa. Knights 1-0 in Big 12 play, beat Houston last week 5-0. Men's soccer, they are at James Madison this weekend. They had a draw with South Florida. They lost at FIU. Injuries starting to mount. They're waiting to get Luca Dorado back. Of course, goalkeeper Juan V. Munoz is still out. It's a tough one on the road for the Knights. Good luck to them this weekend. Sold out. You heard Brandon mention Cincinnati, a probable win for the Knights. That Cincinnati game, an official sellout now. Is that all of them? I've lost track, right? So have they announced every game as a sellout or?
I think so, right? Because BYU is homecoming.
BYU, I think, was Utah officially. I mean, these
Utah,
games are
I
going to
think
sell
I saw
out.
it was sold out, and I think
Space Game be sold out. Yeah.
So I think that may be all of them.
Good traction this week on Around the Kingdom. A lot of people tuning into that. We appreciate it. Eric Lopez and I mixing it up every week. And here's a clip.
Colorado State turned into a blowout, and yet Colorado State, Trace, 3 times the audience that watched the UCF TCU game, which was a more exciting finish. Bad number. I mentioned it on Around the Kingdom in case you missed it. Of all the years, I think UCF's had 15 games that have been aired on ABC or Fox, just the free networks. This is the second lowest UCF broadcast ever on broadcast network television. The only lower one was East Carolina in the COVID year, 2020. It was a noon ABC game, did less than 1 million viewers.
Wait a minute. I know what you're thinking. You're saying to yourself, hey, I watched Around the Kingdom this week. I didn't see that. That's correct. You did not, friends. That's from our little overtime segment, which is available right now on the podcast feed. However, if you want it on video, somebody let me know, drop me a comment, hit me with a DM. But here's what you all don't know. Trace and Elo record that show 30 minutes. I've heard somewhere it's the fastest show in the UCF universe. But after that thing's over, friends, nothing fast happens because these two stay on this little configuration here for 20, 30 minutes talking about it's like a 2 schoolgirls, talking about a novella here. These two just go after it. So we decided,
an odd reference.
what are you going to do? We decided let's just record this.
Put that in the mailbag.
I will. No, that's actually a good one. I'm good with that one. So we decided to record that, put that out there as a little overtime extra. If you want the video version, let me know. I can throw that on YouTube as well. But make sure you find that wherever you get your downloadable content.
I am way too overexposed on the Sons of UCF network of shows. I may need a Thursday off again. No, I've got a good run going during football season. All right,
I'm proud of you.
It is that time again.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
I'm too sexy for my shirt.
Yo!
Because I don't really like any of these guys. None of them are my guys.
Maybe a pony. Giddy up.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, you need to add to that so that it's 2 minutes.
I love you all.
Yeah, we got a video question this week.
Now, by the way, because you never know if I added something into it, but you are correct, Trace. We do have a video question.
First at Matt Avich, who was hiking and sent us a clip.
Hey, sons, doing a little walk and talk here on a rich traverse at 14,000 feet. And we guys share what's on my mind. Well, number one kicking recruit in the country, and from what I understand, he's on scholarship. And he gets beat out by a kicker from Michigan State, tight end transfer guy. Does that mean that our recruit is just young? Or was he a bust? Anyway, figure I'd ask. Go nice charge on.
We've had these video questions from all sorts of locales, and they're a mountaintop in Colorado.
I don't even know what the question was.
He was asking about the highly touted kicker recruit. What's our kicker? Reddick.
Grant Reddick. Yeah, I am jealous of the wind. Yeah.
And the Night Fan 94. Hello.
Yeah, no, you guys, are you guys friends? You guys close?
my Twitter nemesis.
Y'all know each other? No. Listen, I never trust.
Should he be doing more? I first of all, I don't think you should put a lot of stock in kicker rankings. Okay, that's why all these stars. This is an industry for rivals and 24/7 the stars, and there's a super hyper niche that's into all of these kicker recruit rankings. Come on.
Wow. Was that a shot at all kickers or rank? I don't know.
No, just all of that stuff.
Okay.
I mean, he has not beaten out Colton Boomer for the job, and the coaches don't always get this right in camp and all of that. But if he's got the job, it'll be his job, and it's not his job yet. So,
yeah, I hope he's okay. That's Matt. You said I hope he's okay. That seemed like it was really, really. I don't like heights, and so I hope he's okay. Check back in with us, please, and let us know if you're okay.
I like the locale at Dolly_drama. Did you think we'd come back? Be honest. You first.
Not one chance in hell. I think I told you all on the podcast. By the second quarter, I was not going to Colorado. By halftime, I was getting rid of my season tickets. And by the fourth quarter, I was yelling and screaming in my living room. So welcome to UCF fandom.
So quite honestly, Dolly, I was pretty neutral about it. I will say I got a little down at 28-7. I thought, well, we haven't really corrected anything. But I try and be in the moment a lot more than I'm projecting ahead. So I didn't really think that a comeback was out of question because I wasn't really thinking about it. And despite making Mike's top 5 list, I think he was really struggling to find 5 if I got named on the list. I just said, I got him at 8-4. If they don't win at TCU, 8-4 is seeming a little iffy. That's all. It wasn't. But I wasn't really thinking about it.
I was more upset, Trace, if I'm honest with you, because the stuff in the first half was everything that we did not do well last season, right? It was special teams gaffes. It was inaccurate in the quarterback. It was soft coverage on defense. And so the first half, I was like, literally, we changed nothing over 2023 to 24. We all thought we did all these great stuff, brought all these people in, and literally the exact same problems are persisting in 2024. So that's really what had me more frustrated. Not so much the score, although that didn't help, but the fact that the things that we were not doing well were the exact same things from last year. And so I thought, well, geez, we just wasted a whole season on nothing. Then we came back, and I'm the happiest guy you know.
At UCF Nightingale, do y'all need a nurse to help make sure you don't stroke out during these games?
I need an IV of something. I don't know what it was. I need an IV
of something.
I don't know what it is. I'm open.
At blackgold_ed, why does every close win or loss in Gus era seem like root canal? Does it have to be this hard? I think that's just the UCF experience, but also speaks to the caliber of play in the Big 12. I know he's talking about the entire Gus era. That's why you got to enjoy the win over Sam Houston and New Hampshire for what it is and be a little more comfortable and relaxed during those games. That's going to be conference play, though, right? Week in and week out, it's going to be tense. Hey, Andy's back, by the way, on Twitter, in case you haven't noticed. His offbeat sense of humor at UCFXOS. Does a certain coach who doesn't swear get caught swearing at the ref?
1,000%. Oh, 1,000%. There was at least 2 swears that I caught at that moment in time. So there was no darn coaches and shucks and son of a guns. That was not happening on the sidelines.
At CAMCOX_21, thoughts on Gus possibly going to Arkansas next season? You heard it from Mr. Marcello. No. No. Why does he want to go back to that? I know money, right? UCF isn't ever going to win the money game, but he's got a pretty good deal at UCF, right? Why does he want to go back into that, being scrutinized? How's Auburn done since Gus left, by the way? And imagine, Florida's is considering a $26 million buyout of Billy Napier. Hey, go fire me. Adam, fire me right now. You got.
I would love to. Yeah, no. Plus, they do that stupid like pig suey chant. That's enough to not make me want to go to Arkansas.
At C. Pullon Coat, am I normal to always be nervous for UCF to get the extra point after a touchdown? Everything's an adventure, right?
Not anymore. You're not. Not anymore. You're not.
I felt good to hear from Coach though that was something that they have worked on a lot during this week.
They did something. That's all you need to know. Something was done.
At _ Rob Curry. First kick too low, but why do we not recognize and adjust how TCU was aligned and overloading one side of the line? I did not expect there to be 3 blocks, right? I did expect them, and you heard from Coach, so I think he broke it down a little bit more for you. At Joel Like Sports, most impressive thing, 0 turnovers, no major penalties. I don't think any quarterbacks or general teams from the last 3 years pull a win out like that. I agree with that, right? We talked about that earlier. Same scenario, no discredit to John Rice Plumlee, but they don't rally.
The only game I'll throw in there, but I agree with you, Trace, is the 2022 game at Tulane. 38-31 UCF, a game when they were 17, we were 22. It's the only game that I think gets in the same picture, but I don't think it's the same stature as TCU.
At Tan the Man _ more impressed with the second half performance or more concerned with the first half woes? More impressed by the second half. Now let's see if they build upon it. You're expecting the best play of this team in weeks 1, 2, or 3. I want to see them build and get better, right? So I view it as a positive that they made adjustments and did better in the second half.
Judging by my first 2 questions to Coach Lounsberry, I went negative. So that's typically where I lane usually.
At Riley Carey 16, how good do you think this team can be? Too soon to say. You heard Brandon Marcello said, hey, maybe 9-3, 10-2, which a lot of fans on the upside of optimism going into the season thought was possible. You heard though, right? He's got 2 losses on that schedule and 3 coin flips, and it's a special season if those coin flip games go your way. And if they don't, you're middling, right? Robert, 2 letters, 2 words. Again, a big thanks to Robert. He did a great job. We threw him in the deep end of the pool. Hey, Robert, I'm not going to be anywhere near you. Just go into the TCU post game and ask Sonny Dykes and players questions. And he's like, okay, yeah, I'll do that. As a fan, which feeling was more intense? The thrill of beating TCU after being 3 touchdowns behind, or the agony of giving up the lead and taking the loss against Baylor last year, which was a question that I posed on Around the Kingdom this week. Does winning feel better than losing hurts? I feel better now that Baylor game got canceled out.
Yeah, I think winning feels better than losing hurts. I was more typically after a loss, you just want to forget about it and move on and whatnot. After the win, to your point, the birds are chirping louder, the air smells fresher, the rain is a little bit cooler when it falls from the sky because that's what it does in Florida. So I'm going to go with the thrill of the win.
At Golden Knight _ the second, is TCU's passing attack that good, or this is his words? Ted Roof a fraud. That's Golden Knight's words.
I'm sorry, what?
No, don't clip that. That's attributed to Golden Knight. I'm going to get that clip. I can see Mike already. Let me.
What does Mike look like? I didn't see that. Okay.
So what do you think? They got the ball out fast, and they bottled up the run, and we'll see. I think Colorado. I don't want to spend a lot of time on Colorado. That's a taller task than Josh Hoover.
Yeah, Kendall Briles runs an air raid system. We knew that going in. We talked to Steven Simcox last week, who's from TCU, who told us that same thing. So not surprising that TCU threw for a bunch of yards. Would have loved to have seen UCF step up defensively in the first half, but in the second half, things kind of got controlled. So I think it's a little bit of both. But I think Josh Hoover is a pretty darn good quarterback, and I think you'll end up seeing his name throughout the rest of the season.
Sophomore, right? So
yeah.
Be around a while. At Night Reaper, REEPER, were we all duped at all the press conferences when we were told this is going to be a more aggressive defense and they're getting after the quarterback more blitz packages? Still too soon to say. I messaged with Coach Lounsberry last week. I said, I'm a little fixated on that sack total. He's talking about pressure. Where do you side on that? Am I right? I remember Malachi saying that he's a double-digit sack guy. Boy, he's going to have to step it up over these next 9 games in order to be a double-digit sack guy. I know they're getting some pressure, but I just don't want to see Colorado's quarterback just stand there.
Yeah, I mean, Malachi had one tackle on the game, I think. I mean, give TCU credit there. I think they were getting the ball out quickly. They had some design screen plays and some short passing plays. I think that helped. I think Colorado will be an interesting test because their O-line is reputed to not be very good. And so can UCF get in some pressure? I think what you haven't seen is sacks are one thing, but the pressures also aren't obvious, right? You see a lot of pressures where the quarterback is breaks contain and sort of scrambles and tries to make plays. You don't even really see that. I think if I can start seeing some of that, I feel like the pressure is kind of coming internally and they throw the ball a little bit earlier, but it's not obvious to the naked eye. So let me see some quarterbacks running for their lives, even if we don't get a sack, and I'm good with it.
In your studio there, ceiling fan or oscillating fan? I noticed
Oscillating
whatever you have new
no.
behind you there.
Listen, the AC at Casa de Eaton has been is out, and so we are a balmy 84 degrees in here.
Oh,
today.
I had that a month or so
Ceiling
ago.
fan right over here, sweat right over here.
You're like, great, Trace. Let's go past an hour.
It was already in the chat earlier. Someone had noticed that it seemed like the wind was blowing harder than Fort Worth behind me, and I wish I had more ceiling fans.
At Rejoice Nights, will the defense effectively defend the pass this season? They're going to get challenged, right?
We'll find out next week, right? I mean, Colorado's going to throw the ball around the yard. They can't run it, so we'll find out next week about this secondary.
At Scott 88513, do you think RJ Harvey's the best running back we've had since Kevin Smith?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd say yes. At Dare Zim, which football records do you think will be broken this season? Listed a couple here. Consecutive 100-yard rushing games, current record 8. I'd say no. RJ Harvey's streak is at 5.
5, yeah.
Colorado, I like. You know what Brandon said, though? High-profile game. Does he get that in Gainesville at night? That's where I don't want to see him get tripped up, is in that kind of high-profile game.
My concern is just
maybe he does. Maybe.
Well, here's my concern. So Colorado 6, Florida 7, Cincinnati feels like a game we should be able to win. Maybe. So
maybe there's a letdown though if they're undefeated.
Does he get as many carries? So I'm going to go no. Actually, I think the record that gets broken this year is a number of field goals blocked.
Career rushing touchdowns. Current record: Kevin Smith's 45, RJ Harvey 29. No,
not even close.
No. At Engineer UCF, who's the better quarterback evaluator, Gus Norvell or the NFL draft experts who had Johnny Manziel going number 1?
Johnny Malzahn would be fantastic. I mean, do the math here, by the way. Gus, you look at Gus quarterbacks, Cam Newton, Jared Stidham still in the league, Bo Nix, a rookie who was with him at Auburn and went to Oregon after that. He's got 3 quarterbacks who've been in the league, been starters consistently, had some spot duty. Who's the Mike Norvell quarterback? I guess Jordan Travis is with the Jets, but he's been injured, obviously. So I think too soon to tell. I mean, so in this case, I think Gus over Norvell. And maybe that's just a longevity play at this point, though.
At McGuckin _M6, why are there no other receivers getting any looks? Are you all concerned when Kobe gets double teamed, no one else can get open? Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Gonna have to see somebody get open. Yes.
Yes.
We saw Randy Pittman.
Yes.
By the way, I did the math wrong and around the kingdom. I think it was 1 catch week 1, 2, then 3. So he's at 6. He's on a pace for 24, and we did the over-under 24.5.
Yeah, Mike and I talked about this in the pod this week. I mean, it's disconcerting that no other wide receivers really got involved. I think Xavier Townsend's more on the jet sweeps. Trent Whittemore got a bunch of cardio in on Saturday. I don't think he even saw a target in his direction. I think you got Randy Pittman, who's going to be targets, and the running backs have also been targeted outside the wheel route. RJ with another touchdown against TCU. Johnny's got a receiving touchdown. Miles has a receiving touchdown. So perhaps the running back position sort of becomes that stable of the second receiver. But you'd love to see somebody. Jacoby Jones had a couple of catches, a couple of targets. So somebody in that second group is going to have to step up. Maybe it's Pittman, but yes, at some point they're going to take away Kobe. And what do you do next?
Over the course of 12 games, right, the regular season, you can't keep up at this pace with Kobe. You're going to need to see somebody. Xavier Townsend?
And he took a scary shot at the end of the game, Trace. Luckily, he's okay, and it wasn't head-to-head, but to your point, like if he's going to be the main guy, I mean, you see what happens every week in football. You're going to have at some point to be able to rely on somebody else.
At Captain Veg 1. How about that? For all these years, saying that wrong, but never corrected. Pros and cons of the bye week. I thought it was too early, but considering the hits that KJ took, I'm fine with it. And I've enjoyed it. To be honest with you, I've enjoyed being 3-0 all
Yeah,
week and not
I thought it was
stressing.
a little too early just the way you break the season apart for a while because now you have a pretty big stretch of games here in the middle part. But I think it gives you some rest. Obviously, if some teams are banged up, gives you time to prepare for Colorado. I think those are the pros. The cons, to your point, maybe another break later on would be helpful. And you want to maybe they take this momentum into the next game after the TCU win, and maybe that kind of dies a little bit with the bye week.
But I'll tell you what, I like that 2 weeks to prepare for Colorado and a home game. I do like that.
I don't mind it, but like, is Colorado good? Are we preparing for a good team? What do we like? If we were playing BYU, would it matter? Would it be any different for you?
Yeah. And maybe I'm just bought into the hype.
Yeah.
Again,
I don't know.
Maybe I am.
Colorado plays Baylor on Saturday. I guess we'll find out more about Colorado. They beat Colorado State in the Trelco Bowl this weekend there out in Colorado. I mean, maybe they're better than we think. I don't know, but I'm not really sure. I
know our fans don't like a noon game. Baylor gets that win, or Colorado gets a win over Baylor. Wouldn't you like to see a team that plays in Colorado at altitude, not a lot of humidity? I'd like to see them in the bounce house.
A lot of those kids are from Florida, though, man. I don't know how much.
I know, but they don't practice. They live there. They don't practice in it.
Well, I don't want a noon game because I'm already sweating in my house now. I can't imagine what will happen to the bounce house. But
at 10 degrees and the sun.
But that would also be prime exposure, right? Because that's probably meaning it's a big noon kickoff game on Fox or the 12 o'clock game on ABC.
I think we need Colorado to beat Baylor.
To Brandon's point, that gives you the possibility of getting some eyeballs on UCF, maybe getting in the polls, getting an RJ Harvey and the Heisman race. So you could have some potential if that game gets on national TV.
At UCF, after seeing how palatial TCU Stadium is, do you think the Roth Tower expansion, Hagel Gateway, Taylor Gehring Football Center will be sufficient additions to the bounce house? Yes, but I think for fans that travel and have had opportunity to travel to other games, you recognize pretty quickly how far behind facilities UCF is compared to these other Big 12 schools that have been pumping a lot of money into their programs for many, many years. So, no, it will help. But it doesn't cure all. At Night Fan 94, hey, Night Fan 94, UCF, 2 questions. UCF put in some new palm trees and landscaping on the side of the soccer stadium to improve the curb appeal. What upgrades, improvements to the exterior of the indoor practice facility itself would you like to see? He says it's an eyesore on TV. It's better than what it was when it was whatever color. It was not gold before. But isn't there some sort of logoing needs to happen? And by the way, with the aerials, couldn't you paint logo, the UCF logo on top of the building when they have the aerials and the drones and all that? But they need some sort of logoing on that building. It does look rather plain, even with a couple of palm trees.
Yeah, maybe some sort of a tarp, maybe some sort of a.
That's also perhaps the color, but I
yes, yes, some sort of a tarp, maybe some sort of a dividing wall. But yeah, I don't disagree. It doesn't look fantastic on camera.
Night Fan 94 with 2 questions. If you could learn the identity and meet one of the anonymous UCF accounts, would you rather it be Bounce House Grillin'? Night Fan 94. Any less lonely be UCF? We've had the pleasure of
it's a real person.
No, a real person who may
on.
not remember meeting me.
Fair. But he wrote here, lonely bee, parentheses, his posts are too wild for that to be a real person. I've met Mario. Person. You know who I want to meet? Sidelines UCF. Does a great job on social media. Does a great
bit of a mystery.
Does a great job promoting stuff. We're always finding articles. I've never met Sidelines UCF. We've interacted via DMs. I think it's a man of mystery there. I'd love to meet Sidelines UCF. And Mario is a real human.
Yeah. So of these, now that you've met Lonely Bee, UCF,
Bounce House Grillin'.
I've chosen Night Fan 94. So you get lunch with the Bounce House Grillin'. I would like your report back on that one.
I'm gonna need.
Let's do a little contest, shall we? Meet Adam next time he's here.
Yeah.
Zeebles UCF. We round out with reported by our friends over at the Black and Gold Banner, and I crashed their live show at the end with Robert. I said during a point at the game in the press box, I need a new hobby. I don't deny this. And his question is, if you weren't a UCF sicko, what would that hobby be? I do a lot of my own hobbies, so it's not like I'm looking for a new hobby. But I like there being a bye week this week. I'm fine. I just want to watch college football, which I'm not complaining about being on the road games and all that. But you don't end up watching a lot of games, so I'm looking forward to seeing some football over the next couple of days.
If I had to pick, that's a good one. Yeah, no, actually, swing on by. You got any
well, what is the status? Do you have a repair person coming?
We have a part identified. It's on order, waiting for it to get here.
Was that a Friday thing?
It's going to have to be a Friday free thing, or I'm going to be needing bail money. If so, I'm assuming I do nothing UCF related at this point. Like I have no interest in UCF, so I have a lot of time on my hands. I think my hobby would be horseshoes. Professional
Horseshoes?
Professional horseshoe player. Yeah, why not? I think it's going to be big in 10 years.
By the way, have you ever
I
done
have played pickleball. I have played
pickleball.
Is
it as exciting as people say?
It's like playing ping pong while standing on the table. I mean, it's not bad, but the median age, I think, is like 62.
So I live in Sanford, not far from Winter Springs in Central Florida, Adam, and neighbors are upset with the location of the pickleball court. They say that the sound that's made exceeds the city of Winter Springs decibel level for sound. And it appears that it does by like 0.3 or something. So now the city of Winter Springs is revisiting its noise ordinance to accommodate the pickleball players. And they interviewed a guy in the neighborhood. And he said all day long, like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., the sound of the pickleball is driving him mad, So
what kind of job is that to test the sound levels of pickleball courts? Are they hiring?
You got to go out and check the decibels of the pickleball players.
Are they hiring? It feels like a job for me.
All right. A lot of questions. I think if I counted correctly earlier today, 27 questions. And it is that time now where I'm starting to dread this segment.
Yeah.
What is in the box?
Yeah,
it's where things go off the rails. I end up getting clipped for saying something. I got to watch what I say.
Don't say anything stupid this time. This is Charlie Hustle.
Well, I don't think I'm saying anything stupid at the time. I don't.
TEN1215 gets you promo code 15% off non-sale items. Here we go, Trace.
Now, you never really get to answer these questions, so I feel on the spot. You've created questions that I think are designed to embarrass me. And
all right, here we go. Is the Allen wrench a drain on society?
I don't know. What does that mean?
You don't know what an Allen wrench is?
No, I know what an Allen wrench is, but what is drain on society? What does that mean?
What I mean are you pro Allen wrench? Are you anti Allen wrench? Do you own Allen wrenches?
I probably. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a tool inventory. I
don't even plan this every week. The gods just smiled down upon me, Trace. Let me tell you this right now. I had to install something recently, and yes, Night Fan 94. Maybe I will meet you versus this grilling idiot because
what's wrong with
Allen wrench? I'm getting like 95 boards of equipment to build a shelf, and I got this little piece right here that's gonna put all this together. That's all we're doing here. It's all just a sham. I don't even understand what's happening with the Allen wrench. Why is it there? Who the hell is Allen? Why do I use this? Why can't I use a regular wrench? I have a screwdriver. I have a drill. I have all kinds of different tools. I have this thing this big right here, and yes, clip this if you need to. That this is going to be the.
You're the only one that clips things that can be used in the show.
No, UCF Mike is watching, and he's angry because we went overtime, and he's upset about this. That's the thing that's going to install my bookshelf and my desk and whatever else. I don't understand the Allen wrench.
Who's Phillips of the Phillips screwdriver? Who's that guy?
It's a great question.
Who's Phillips?
That's our. Thank you. April is correct as always.
April's been on fire.
I don't know if I would call it the Adam wrench, Mike. I'm not gonna lie to you. I believe this with all my heart. Night Fan 94. Great question. I spelled it Allen on here. I assumed it was a last name, not a first name. But if I met Mr. Allen or Allen whatever, I would like to punch him in the face. I don't know who Adam and Steve are. I don't know what this means. I think that's probably not. I know I get it. No, I don't like that actually. Let's go April. Hex keys are known. Eric, look at Eric Edwards with the research.
Hold on. Let me move the. Let me.
No, I mean, feel free to take time. Hex keys are known as Allen wrenches, early '90s Connecticut-based Allen manufacturing company. See.
Who's Phillips? Before we log off, Eric, who's Phillips?
This may be a little harsh, but I don't disagree with it. This may be a little harsh. I don't disagree with it though. See, Mario is a real person. Who else? Robots gonna tap that in there. Who is Phillips? I don't even know. Mike, are you there? Mike, UCF Mike. I know you're out there. I know you're tweeting and texting, doing something. Can I get a Phillips?
Mike 73rd in the Pick'em. Just
you're lucky. I used to send Mike the link to these shows. I haven't anymore because he's either Henry H. Phillips invented the screwdriver. What's the H name?
Screwdriver. There we go. Now we know. Okay. Let's end now. Can we just tease that we're going to have a pretty significant giveaway coming up soon that people are going to want to be interested in.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, T-Strays. Our good friends at Alumni Hall have been super kind to us. We have not one, but two different giveaways we're going to do over the next couple of days, courtesy of Alumni Hall. Both, I think, are really cool. One, I think, is super super exciting, and so we'll announce all that next week. But big thanks to Alumni Hall for giving us the opportunity to give you all the chance to get some of these things. Their gear, their merch is fantastic, and they want to make sure you get your hands on it. So until then, stay tuned to the Sons UCF so we can give you that stuff. Henry Frank Phillips, American businessman from Portland, are named after him.
I want to thank Coach Lounsberry and Brandon Marcello from CBS Sports, and all of you for all your knowledge and all of your questions. For Adam, I'm Trace. Go Knights!
Charge on! What a shout out there by Timo.
You voiceover artist for this particular.
No, after Mike gave me feedback, it sounds like I was saying fumble. I wasn't. But I was trying to do the voice and the mimic, and like it got a little weird with Lee Hunter because there's stuff I can't hit the button right now.
I read that quote, but I gave a disclaimer on Twitter that there was some language. It was a great clip, though.
You only paid me for an hour show. This is 30. I mean, overtime.